everyone. Welcome to another episode of D&D's Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials with RealmSmith. I am your host, Jason Azevedo, for tonight. This is episode 26. Today we are painting the vampire, and there's a reason for that. Starting, and I love to, and I'm honored to announce that starting now, our Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials episodes we'll be streaming natively on the D&D Twitch. We're so happy to partner with D&D in order to do this and to bring it to you every week. And now we are a native stream, which we're super crazy excited about. If you're new to Nolzur's, basically the way that it works is every single week we paint a D&D Nolzur's Marvelous miniature by WizKids using Vallejo paint. And we've done a number of them. We've already done 25 of them. You can find them on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/RealmSmith. or on the D&D YouTube channel as well. Most of them are on there, and we're catching up on getting some of those back episodes up there as well. But you can check all of the VOD versions. We've done tons, including the Frost Giant and the Kraken and a bunch of others. So today we're focusing on the vampire, and the reason we're focusing on the vampire is because January 6th we're premiering our live actual play D&D 5e campaign of Curse of Strahd on the D&D Twitch. At 4 Pacific time or 7 o'clock Eastern time. That is a 3-hour session we'll be playing every week, and it's a season of 3 months. So we're starting right at the beginning of Curse of Strahd, and we are, again, super excited to be partnering with D&D in order to be bringing it to you directly and natively on their Twitch channel. So check that out, January 6th. It's an interactive stream, something that I don't believe has ever been done before. Can't tell you much more than that right now, but that is coming January 6th. Check that out. A couple other things out of the way, of course. Partners, thank you to D&D for this incredible lore and for allowing us to stream on their channel. To WizKids for the incredible miniatures, including this vampire, which you can't really see from that distance at the moment, but it's awesome. And of course, Vallejo for the amazing paints that we use to paint their miniatures each and every week. Another partner of ours is Syrinscape. We're so happy to bring you a kind of background music, and this is actually a user-generated Castle Ravenloft theme that was created, and you can check them out at Syrinscape.com, and they're an incredible partner and sponsor of ours as well. I want to say hi to everybody. Of course, Declasser, Fragmentees, who is joining us again. I am live in the chat here. I do have my eyes on what's going on, so if you have any questions, comments, this is completely interactive, and I love to hear if you guys have already painted these miniatures, what miniatures you'd like to see us paint in January and moving forward into the new year. Next week, we will not have a live show. We'll be re-airing one of our sessions from PAX. We did live on the show floor at PAX, but we are live on our channel right now at twitch.tv, brain fart right before Christmas, twitch.tv/RealmSmith, and we're live on twitch.tv/DND as well as on our Facebook page. So happy to have all of you here. We have adventure boxes. You can check those out by using the promo code. You'll get $20 off your first box. You can check those out at www.realmsmith.tv. And basically, they're 5e encounter adventure boxes that are sent to your door each and every month, created by the RealmSmith team, which we love just so very much. If you do have a question, just place question in caps before your question, and then the question, because I have 3 chat windows open here, so I'm trying to keep up as much as I can. Hello, Sketchy Neon. Hello, Chile UK. I have an idea of where Chile UK is from. It is incredibly chilly here in Toronto as well. And if I wasn't Canadian enough, I'm actually wearing red plaid. Just realized that, but repping the Canadian North. And again, follow us here on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll get all of the awesome content from all of that wonderful stuff. I just saw an Extra Life post. Part of the proceeds of this interactive part that we're doing for our Curse of Strahd campaign starting January 6th is going to Extra Life, and so we're just giving back a little bit as well for all the awesomeness that D&D has given us. Okay, so yeah, for all of you that are new, I'm getting some questions here. Basically, we have tutorials of painting Nolzur's Marvelous miniatures by WizKids every week, Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. 5 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific time, and we paint a different miniature every week, and the VODs are available on our YouTube page. So if you have the unpainted Nolzur's miniatures that you get in stores by WizKids, we are painting them all together here. And again, we're Curse of Strahd themed because we're going into a Curse of Strahd campaign on the D&D Twitch officially on January 6th. All right, all of that aside, let's get into the tools of the trade. Of course, we're going to need the Vampire miniature by WizKids. That is the official D&D Vampire. We have some Vallejo brushes. We're using a 0, a 1, and a number 2. We got a water pot basically for rinsing your brushes as well as cleaning them, and using also for diluting paints. A dry brush for larger areas that we have to dry brush, although there isn't a lot of that today. Some paper towel for cleaning your brush as well as dry brushing, and a paint palette to hold your paint. And then, as far as paints go, this miniature has lots of different details. So we've got a heavy blue for the cape, as well as a black wash there, and some steel gray for some highlights. Silver, of course, for some of the metal areas. Warlock purple for the coat or the doublet that he's wearing. Some sepia wash and some glorious gold for the golden highlights. Heavy sienna and leather brown for the boots. Off-white for eyes and bone white as well, mixed with off-white for some of the shirt area, flesh wash, and of course cadmium skin, for the skin tones. So let's jump right in here. I've got my Curse of Strahd book handy. Typically when washers are drying or things that happen that take a little bit longer, we love to do a little bit of a RealmSmith story time and look through stats for the monsters that we're actually painting on the show. I also have this fine gentleman here, Strahd. Oh, right there. And just for some reference there, we have him along with us for the ride so that we can take a look and see kind of the color ideas and thoughts that we have on that as well. This is the Vampire miniature. It's not quite a Strahd miniature, but I'm going to paint him in the style and kind of the color selections that Strahd would wear, because I'm using him as Strahd in our campaign. Last week we painted some vampire hunters, and so this is the Esmeralda from the campaign. We're gonna actually put a black wash on her base today because we did do that last time, but that is Esmeralda. And of course here is Van Richten, who's Rictavio in the Curse of Strahd campaign. And we finished both of those in 2 hours. Now, the idea behind this show, again, for those of you that are new and are just tuning in for the first time, the idea behind the show is basically that we are giving the opportunity to show you how easy it is to paint these miniatures in a very short amount of time with limited paints and resources and all of that kind of stuff. So that is the intention. I always challenge myself. I've only been beaten once by the clock on the Black Dragon. That was an early episode, maybe episode 3. Or if we had, like, the Frost Giant was 3 episodes because we wanted it to take a little bit longer. But the intention for us is to paint a miniature in a single episode so that we can show you, again, how to do that. And when it comes to D&D minis, I like to paint them basically as great as they need to be for the tabletop at about 2 feet away. That is where your players are going to see them. And so that's the level of detail that we're going here. It's not necessarily a master class. This is an beginner to intermediate class for those that want to learn how to paint, get into painting, and have a fun, wonderful time doing it. All right? Let's dive in here. I did not have heavy red on the paint list. I've added heavy red because I think that the Warlord purple that I have is too bright for his doublet. So just remember that when you're choosing your colors, that you are adding a heavy red to that. Typically with the miniature, I like to paint from the inside out. What that means is the deepest recesses of the miniature, the areas that are furthest away from you, will get painted first because they're buried. You basically don't want to mess up the higher areas when you're trying to get into those lower areas later. Really, those areas here, this is quite a shallow miniature, as it were. We're probably going to paint his doublet first and his boots as well. Let's do that first. So, heavy red. Now, hello, Jack's Not Funny. Welcome, y'all. And Puppy Lover 12397 met me at PAX. That's awesome. What miniatures did you did you paint with us, puppy lover? What we do is we actually travel to shows all across North America, and to all the main shows, Origins, PAX, all of those sorts of shows, and we teach people how to paint live on the show floor 3 times a day, and it was nuts, and lines around the corner. It was pretty nuts and awesome too. Hello, Melanie. Hi to Shannon as well. All right, so heavy red. Here we go. Shake it up. Now you're going to put a decent amount in your palette. The heavy opaque paints, or the extra opaque paints from Vallejo, are basically base coats. So you can get them basically down in one coat. That is the design of them. That is what they're meant for. And it just cuts down on time to kind of base coat your miniatures. So that is the idea. I always add a little bit of water just to dilute paints. Even the heavy ones, they flow a little bit better, I find, with a little bit of water. We're using that heavy red, which again isn't in the original paint list, because literally 5 minutes before it started, I was like, oh, wait a second. I looked at my paints and I said, you know what? This Warlord Purple isn't quite going to get me where I needed to go. So I like to kind of figure out these things while we paint live, just so you guys can kind of understand and get the idea of how I kind of solve problems as I'm going. If I get to a point I'm like, you know what, that color is really not working, or have kind of a last minute sort of change of heart, how I adjust and pivot and all that kind of fun stuff. So here we go. Where's everybody from? Puppy Lover says, I did the Shambling Mound, the Bullet, the White Dragon, and the Brass Dragon. That's amazing. You did 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different classes. That is amazing. One person did all but 2, and that would have been 7 classes at PAX. They're always such a hit, and like I said, they were sold out every session. So keep an eye out for us for Origins, because we'll be there doing that same thing live. Basically, you pay for the event, you come in, you take your miniature with you, and we teach you how to paint it in a 2-hour session. So, all right. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm just taking my number 2 brush, and as much as I can, just kind of making sure that I get it right into those recesses. We're not worried about getting it on other areas right now. We're mostly just worried about covering that kind of inner jacket, a doublet. I'm going to call it a doublet. I don't know if it's a doublet or not. I don't know if that's the official term. But anyways, I'm going at it, and I am just trying to cover as much as possible so that we get a solid coat. And the reason I'm kind of overlapping in certain areas is because you don't want that little border of white showing through where the primer ends between colors. So I'm not being too careful here. I'm literally just going over the entire thing, the entire area that I want to paint red, not worrying about getting it on kind of neighboring areas here. I'm not too concerned about that at all. If I'm squinting a lot, I'm wearing my contacts today. Forgot to put my glasses in because they're a bit better when I'm painting. So if I look like I'm squinting a lot, that's exactly the reason why. Okay. That's a pretty good base coat, actually. That's all right. So as you can see, I've basically hit the entirety of his coat, and we're trying to match this kind of color that Strahd has in this image here. Of this kind of deep red color, and some of the material he's got kind of a wine color, which is why I was going to go Warlord Purple, but then kind of pivoted, changed my mind kind of last minute, and I'm digging the red a bit more. I'm digging that kind of blood sort of red approach. Now I'm going to let that dry. And then we're going to go on to another area. I can do the boots now because the red that has kind of overpainted onto the boots is now dry. I started at the bottom knowing that I was going to do the boots next. So let's go into heavy sienna here. Look at all these wonderful people watching today. I'm so happy. Again, folks, if you're new, you can check out all our VOD stuff on youtube.com/RealmSmith or youtube.com/D&D. They also have a lot of our content on there as well for all of the 25 episodes that we've had ahead of time. If you do have a question, just write question first, and then write your question out so that I can catch it while I'm scrolling through here. Yes, RGE Wolf, we are just using Vallejo paints. We've got Norway. I'm getting good morning, so that is not near here. But welcome. Australia. Haha, that's where morning is coming from. Sweden, Texas. It's all Vallejo Game Color paint is correct. Never painted minis before, looking at doing my first one tomorrow. Very excited. Which one are you doing tomorrow, Crosscore? Yeah, it's all Vallejo paint here. Yeah. All right, so here we go. Now the boots have a kind of like the pirate boot thing where they fold over at the top. So I'm gonna go right to the end of the doublet here. I'm still using the larger brush just because it saves me a bit of time. I can cover a bit more area. That comes with a little bit of confidence. Once you've been painting for a bit, go with a larger brush. I always paint with the largest brush possible. It teaches me, even for beginners, I'd say, it teaches me how to be smart and let the brush do the work and really kind of work on brush control. Most people are going to want to use like a zero brush, a very fine brush on these small ones, but it's not necessary, especially at this stage, especially when I'm just base coating here. I want to lay down this base coat. Thank you. Puppy Lover from Boston is saying the red is working very nicely. Of course I remember you. Puppy Lover was she signed up for a whole year of our adventure box at PAX. Of course I remember. Welcome. I'm so glad that you got to join us for a whole episode live. It's amazing. And thank you again for becoming a member of the Realm and subscribing to our adventure box. So that's awesome. Thank you. It was wonderful. We had such a good time. And I think I gave you my Shambly Mound that I painted as well. Of course, we've got Kelly from Florida, Shannon from Ohio. Okay. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint the scabbard while I'm at it. Now, the problem with painting the scabbard at this point is I'm going to be moving this miniature around in my hands. So I am using heavy sienna. I don't even know if I said that. I just started going at it. Heavy sienna is another extra opaque paint from Vallejo. Again, a great base coat. Just super excited. Would you always base coat or maybe skip for characters that would have many different colors in a small area? Yeah. I would say that I don't always base coat. Sometimes I use a mid-tone and then let the washes do the work. The reason I like doing the extra opaques is just because of the coverage. So if I have a large area and the color makes sense, it just covers better and gives me a better base to work from. But I'm not always going to do that. You're going to see that in some of these areas, I'm not going to use an extra opaque color. And in some cases, you really don't have an extra opaque color that kind of fits what you're looking for. So, then in that case, you're a little limited or more limited in the selections. A lot of the main kind of primary colors are covered in the extra opaque line. And the extra opaque line is just a offshoot, or not offshoot, but an expanded version of, or it's part of the core Vallejo set. Not core. It's part of the Vallejo color set, full Vallejo color set. The core is just kind of the regular kind of layer paints that you get. But the extra paint is covered in the expanded set. Okay, so we have heavy sienna on the boots and on the scabbard. I think those are the only two areas that we need it on. I'm going to go ahead, I think, and base coat the cloak. Again, I'm going to be holding this a lot. I'm going to try and now just hold it around the base because you will rub paint off. The beautiful thing about WizKids miniatures is that they come pre-painted. I took this out of the box. It was ready to go. Didn't have to spray prime it or anything like that. It's not pre-painted, sorry, pre-primed so that it's ready to go right outside of the box. Heavy blue is what we're going to be using for this cloak. It looks like it's a bit black in this picture, the Strahd cloak. I'm going with a heavy blue, and I'm going to darken that down with a black wash just because I'd like to give a bit more depth and some color to the miniature against the drab kind of stone gray of Castle Ravenloft. Anybody running Curse of Strahd right now for your group? for those of you at home. All right. Okay. Hello to all my Facebook folks, of course, watching live. As I said, next week, guys, we're gonna air one of the pre-recorded sessions from PAX because it is around Christmas time, and I'm just taking a little time between Christmas and New Year's to actually renovate our studio. We're working on it very soon, starting to pick up the things that we need because we want to kind of give it an overhaul for our Curse of Strahd campaign because it's going to be nuts. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy, and that is January 6th, again, on the D&D Twitch and the RealmSmith Twitch as well. Okay, so in this case now, we're adding this blue on here, but we're making sure not to hit the red because we want to be a bit careful. I am using my number 2, which may be a little scary for some folks, but again, that comes with a little confidence. But I'm basically just running this brush along the edge here, making sure as best as possible not to hit that red. If I hit that red, it's not a big deal. We literally just put it on as a base coat, so I can always go back and adjust it if necessary. It appears that this cloak goes basically to the edge of where the collar from his doubletter's jacket goes. So basically I'm going to take it to right about there is the plan. I remember when I started playing D&D back, I'm about to age myself because I think Declasser just told everybody how long I've been playing D&D, but early teens is when I started playing. So it's probably even longer than that. But we played Ravenloft as right when it basically almost I think when it came out, and it was one of the campaigns that my DM ran for us, and some of my fondest memories playing D&D were on cold, foggy, kind of fall days in my buddy's basement playing Curse of... at that time it was called Ravenloft, but playing kind of our Curse of Strahd campaign. So very close to my heart, very excited about it. Guitar Goddess says, I am at the moment played through it 3 times as well. One of my favorite modules. I love the variability. Agreed. It's been a different experience every time. Love it. I'm so excited to play. I am DMing that session. Again, it's right there actually. Into the Mist is the name of the first season that we'll be running. So my players, I've been taunting my players basically all last few weeks since we announced it, just telling them to prepare because Barovia is a scary place indeed. This stream is not for the weak at heart. It'll be a lot of fun. Hope to see you guys all there. Okay, again, no question is silly, folks, so if you guys have any questions, especially new painters, people who are thinking about painting, or just have any questions about the paint line or what paints to use, brushes, anything like that, please do not hesitate to ask. Just as I said, just make sure that you write question before your question. It's going by fairly quickly here. So just write question before your question, and then I will do my best to respond as I can here, as I'm watching kind of the stream. You've had 4 character deaths so far. That's wonderful. That is insanity, and I love every minute of it. That's great. 4 character deaths in Curse of Strahd so far. That is, unfortunately, perhaps the way it's going to go for my players. We'll see. But it is one of those. I mean, if you can capture the feeling that death is around every corner, because that's kind of what Curse of Strahd and Barovia is all about. It's just this gothic kind of horror setting. And I think as a DM, I'm now going to actually go to my zero brush with some, I'm going to go back to heavy red here because I did go over onto the arm a little bit and I just want to touch that up. But I think the key to running a kind of a balanced Curse of Strahd campaign is to remember that, you know, that horror needs to be offset. You need to give the players maybe a little bit of a breath of fresh air. So it's injecting the little bits of color, the Vistani and the other things that kind of bring life to Barovia a little bit amongst all the death and bring hope as well. I think is important that they feel that hope and they feel that ability to kind of get through it, depending, of course, what kind of character they are and what alignment they are and all that kind of stuff. But all right. Sorry, I realized I had missed kind of the cuffs of the jacket here, so I just kind of went in and added that. So this is what we have so far. We've got the heavy red coat, heavy blue on the cloak, and the heavy sienna on the boots. I'm actually going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to put that down, let the paint cure a bit. As it cures, it'll rub off a little less. Again, this is the Esmeralda we painted last week from Curse of Strahd. I'm going to go ahead and add a black wash to that base. We actually didn't finish the bases quite off last week. So, question, does the paint dry quickly or does it take time? I notice you are painting slightly over parts you have previously painted. How does that affect the paint? Great color, crosscore from Australia. So, yeah, for me, it does dry quickly, especially when you have it on the miniature. So you don't have to worry, except for the washes. So washes take a little longer just because obviously they go on a little bit more wet. You can see, and for those of you that have never used washes or are new to painting, washes basically add depth and shadow to your miniature. We call it liquid talent or talent in a bottle because it just basically, you brush it on and it goes into all the recesses and adds the texture or brings out the texture by kind of, again, resting in those recesses. So that takes a little bit longer to dry because it comes out a little bit more wet. When it's actually on the miniature, the paint dries actually quite quickly, Vallejo. The nice thing about Vallejo that I find, though, and one of the reasons why I prefer it as a paint brand in general, is that it stays wet in the palette longer. By the end of this miniature, after the first hour, I'll probably be able to go back to that heavy red in my palette, and it's still viable, even without a wet palette, which is basically a palette that is designed to keep your paints wet longer. So we've added a black wash to that base. You can see it's kind of rested in all the recesses. We're going to put her down and let that dry for a little while. And then after that, I'm going to put a Vallejo matte varnish on top of that. Either a brush on, use a brush on, or you can use a spray, so that when the minis are being held at your table and manipulated and moved around your awesome terrain, that the paint doesn't chip off and you don't ruin your wonderful paint job. I'm also doing the same thing to Van Richten or Rictavio. I'm also trying not to spoil too much, especially for my players who I think some of them are watching. We're trying to get the inside scoop on Strahd, and it's not going to happen. Maybe a little bit. Okay. Also, I noticed too, he has a cane sword that we painted last week. The cane part of it is actually on the base there, so I'll remember to come back and paint that with a heavy sienna in a little while. So we're letting Strahd dry a little bit. He's pretty much dry here. A little bit longer. We have a question from Sketchy Neon. What color was on that mini's base? It looked amazing when you got the wash on it. That was steel gray, which is a Vallejo base color, layer color paint, basically. For washes, do you use regular paint and water down or buy a specific kind? So for me, I know people who create their own washes. I actually use the pre-formulated washes. They look like this. And they're just the exact consistency. I add a little bit of water to dilute it, but they go on really, really nice, and they're quite affordable. So I use pre-made washes. I don't really create my own washes. With the line of washes that are available, I never really found a need for that. Okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to base coat the hair. Now, this might seem a little weird, but I'm actually going to base coat the hair in steel gray. The reason I'm going to do that is then we're going to use a black wash on top of it, and it's actually going to make it look like a dark, kind of almost black gray look. We may add an additional wash after that, but to go black and then go up from there, we would add to our paint line, and I want to keep the paint selection kind of as minimal as possible so that you guys can kind of get creative with your paint selections. So, and know that you can get a lot out of kind of a little when it comes to the paint, because we could use 35 paints here if we wanted to, but I wanted to keep it down to as few as possible. So, steel gray in the palette. Puppy Lover has a question: where would be the best place to pick up the minis you're using right now? Your local game store, folks. You can find WizKids unpainted minis at almost all major hobby stores. Most places will carry them. Places that carry D&D material will carry the WizKids minis. I think there are some available online, but I would absolutely support your local game store and head there and check them out. They're incredible miniatures, which most would attest to. So. Weeping Jay says, hope without glasses you're doing well. I am doing well. I've got my contacts in, but it's causing me to squint a little bit, which is okay. But yes, we do have last week's title in. Oops, we do have last week's title on our channel. I will change that later, folks. I apologize for that. This is episode 26, Vampire. Okay, so for steel gray, again, this is going to look really bright, but the idea sometimes is if you use a mid-tone or even a lighter tone, sometimes for undead, the best way to paint a skeleton, for example, is to paint it kind of a bone white color, like this, and then do a sepia wash over it. And then it goes into other recesses, it tones the white, gives you the depth, and you're done. Maybe you want to do like a dry brush of white or off-white on top of it afterwards, but sometimes, you know, I used to always work from dark to light, and then I expanded my understanding a little bit of the way that paint works and all of that kind of stuff, and just found kind of little hacks, I guess, to kind of get better results and quicker results too. I mean, you're saving time with a decent hack. So. Again, like I said, looks really weird, folks. Light blue. You're thinking, what the heck? But it'll come together in the end. This is actually the, and just to kind of give you an idea, I'll find the, I don't think I have it here. In the monster manual, yeah, I don't have it handy. This is the vampire. If you look up vampire on D&D Beyond or in the monster manual, you'll find this guy in there. He's got like a blue doublet and stuff, but like I said, I'm painting him to look like Strahd so that I can terrorize my players with them. All right. Okay, so that's that. I think I'm gonna. I also have. There's a little kind of sash on the front. The reason I'm base coating all these colors is because these are all the colors that are going to get a black wash. And I'm thinking ahead a little bit to find out so that I'm not washing everything multiple times. He has a little sash in the front here that's heavy blue, but you'll see how that heavy blue goes on so strong over that red. You know, in some cases, you'd have to paint multiple coats of that blue, but not here. There's a little sash. Painted that. He also has a little belt that I'm also going to paint heavy sienna, and I am wiping off a little bit of the brown on his toe there, you'll see. So we just want to be careful with that. I don't have to get more heavy sienna because it's still wet in my palette. I'm just going to add a touch of water, dilute it. I always do that with every kind of bit of paint that I take. Right. So that's going to go there, and then also on the belt here. It's a little wet, actually. I have a little too much water on the brush, and it is causing it to to drip a little, so I'm just going to be really careful here not to have it overbrush onto other areas. That worked out okay. Just going to paint his belt brown as well. In here as well there. Good. Okay. All right. Cool. He's looking all right, I think. I think I'm going to go ahead and add my black wash on all of it, because that will help again to bring out. It's gonna really darken everything, but then we're gonna work things back up using using some highlights as well. So. Okay. Now I'm going to use my number 1 brush, which is kind of in between, obviously, the 2 and the 0. I got more black wash, but I didn't need to because it's actually still wet on my palette. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place it onto the cloak, and you're going to see right away how it goes into the recesses, creating shadow on that cloak. Washes are amazing. I love it. It's one of my favorite kind of steps of painting a miniature, is adding that wash and seeing all that detail kind of pop. Such a great way to quickly add depth. Now we're going to add a fairly heavy wash. I'm not even going to dilute it for the head. I'm not worried about getting it on the face because we're going to paint that some skin tones later, but it's going to need a couple different washes for that hair so that it gets down to black, but you'll still see that steel gray come through as well. And onto the rest of the painted base coated areas now. Right like this. Here we go. Okay. Awesome. I'm also putting it on the scabbard, and I'm literally just putting this wash everywhere. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're ruining the base coat that you just put on. Never fear, that is not the case, because when we come back in with some highlights and some dry brushing, it's going to really bring everything out again. I am not worried about it. This again, the intention of this step is to really bring out the shadows on the miniature. Like that. Okay. Now we're gonna have to let this sit for a second, because this wash, now it's gonna look super messy, folks, for now, but once this is dry, you'll see how it goes from there. But again, that hair all of a sudden is already looking better and darker. I'm actually just gonna add even a quick second coat on that hair, nice and thick, to bring that color down. Okay, put that down there and check back in on our vampire hunters. That wash is pretty much dry except for around his foot and in one area, but you can see when it dries how cool that looks. That's actually a good underdark hair color, I would think. And again, this here, you can see how cool that texture looks on that Esmeralda. Really kind of finishes off a miniature when you add a wash to the base like that. Okay. While we're doing that, we're just going to wait for that wash to dry. It's RealmSmith story time. I'm going to be careful what I show in this book. Again, if my players are watching, we don't want that. I'm going to show you a couple pictures of Strahd here, because he's awesome. Everybody knows he's in the book anyways. That's a picture of him on the right, obviously. I'm going to look at his stats here, but without giving away too much. Spoiler warning for those of you that are playing Strahd. This is Rictavio, who we painted last week, of course. And then Esmeralda's just a few pages back from that. There's Esmeralda, who we painted as well. 2 vampire hunters. She is the protege of Rictavio. Strahd. Strahd's character sheet is a single whole page. Right, that is Strahd von Zarovich. And his kind of intro page is a whole page. So you've got 2 full pages of monster goodness. He's challenge 15. That's scary, especially because the Curse of Strahd campaign is level 1 to 10 or so, or recommended for level 1 to 10. So you can imagine how dangerous and scary he is. He's got so many fun effects and abilities. I'm just super pumped to run it again. The coolest thing about this campaign, one of the coolest things, is the fact that you can buy what is called a Taroka deck, which is a Curse of Strahd themed kind of tarot card deck, and you use these cards to basically set the events that will happen by doing kind of a tarot reading, or Taroka reading, and so it keeps it different every single time you play it. Certain things are in certain places, which is really exciting. And I apologize, folks. The furnace turned on, and I had forgotten to turn it off. So hopefully it's not too loud in the mic. Hopefully it's not too bad. You guys can let me know if you can hear that or not. Now, like I said, these washes take a while. Still fairly wet here. Kind of give it some time and let it dry. There isn't really anything on this miniature. Actually, I can maybe paint the base, but again, I'm touching this base so much while we're painting it that doing that this time, you know what? I'm gonna grab my little fan, because that will speed things up a little bit. And we're only 5:45 right now, folks. So because it's just 5:45, we've got lots and lots of time to finish off the rest of this miniature. Maybe actually a bit of a shorter session today for that reason. And that is okay. Just want to grab my fan. Turn off the furnace. Here we go. All right. Live, folks. This is live streaming. These fans are great. I just picked it up at a local store, and I'm just gonna do one of these, and then I'll get her done faster. Although it's had better days. It's starting to get a little loud here. Guitar Goddess says, I love the Taroka deck. I set up a card reading in full costume and even memorized the card meanings. Get out! The more immersive, the better. Our adventure boxes are all about immersion. We here at RealmSmith are all about the atmosphere, as you can see, even surrounding us in the studio. If you've ever seen any of our live streams, but each one of our boxes comes with a candle, a scented candle in it. The first one is a blazing hearth, which smells like a campfire. But then we have a sewer candle. We have a kind of fresh bread bakery candle. We have a swamp candle, and we're all about unadulterated immersion. That's kind of our thing. You can see already how quickly that has dried just from the short time with this fan here. Question: how big of a party are you running for Strahd? It's a great question. 4 to 6 is the kind of suggested amount. We are running 6, and some players may, unfortunately, due to whatever circumstance, only come to certain sessions. So, but 6 is our starting cast, and then it'll fluctuate from 4 to 6 throughout the season. So that is the plan. All right, so you can see a very dark, kind of looks like he fell in mud now, Strahd. And that is, like I said, perfectly okay, because now we're going to go in and we're going to add some highlights. Okay. Because the wash is still drying in some areas, I'm actually probably going to go in here and start painting in some of the skin areas so that they can dry. So by the time we're ready to go, we'll add a flesh wash. So by the time we're done painting the other areas, flesh wash will be dry, all that fun stuff, kind of planning ahead a little bit. Cadmium skin is kind of a bit of a pale skin color from Vallejo Game Color. Man, memorizing the whole Tarokka deck, that's next level. That's what that is. Jeez. That's pretty impressive. I would have loved to have experienced that. I've actually used the Tarokka deck in other sessions that were not Curse of Strahd related, just because it's fun to have a fortune teller in the local tavern. Okay, so I'm going to get cadmium skin. At this point, I want to be very careful because now I've added a wash to certain areas. So now with my zero brush, I'm just going to go in and base coat his face in this cadmium skin. Again, it's not an extra opaque, but you can see how well this paint goes on, even if it isn't kind of a base coat paint or intended as a base coat. It still covers very well, which is the case for a lot of the Vallejo line. You'll find even the non-extra opaque paints go on very, very well. Okay, go around here on the other side. There we go. Now I'm going to grab his ear here as well, making sure I don't get a sideburn. But he's got one of those kind of pointed vampire ears. Again, using my zero brush for this. You can see. I'll flip him over here. Grab the other ear. There. So I'm still maintaining that kind of sideburn, but making sure to catch. And I want to catch the neck as well. A little bit. And then again with the flesh wash, it's really going to push everything kind of a little deeper there. But you can see already how that face is popping. Also going to do his hands, because once that's done, I can add a wash to those, and then I can come back to it after that wash dries as well. I haven't painted the hilt of his sword yet, which is fine. Come back and do that after the skin. But he's got kind of this frilly sleeve here. Like that. And then I'll grab the other hand. Like that. He's holding the scabbard with one hand and the hilt or the grip of his sword with the other. Ready to strike here. A poor, poor party. Vampires are no joke. I am going to add a little bit of a second coat here to some of the skin. It does go on nice and thick, but in this case, you can use a bit more. Some of these colors are pretty dark. under here, so yeah, that's better. I think I went a little too high on the head. I'm probably gonna have to come back a little bit, work in some of that again. We'll see. See how that transitions. Okay. All right. I'm also going to go in with some some bone white for kind of the fluffy shirt that he has under his jacket there. Question: will you also be painting the running ahead version? Actually, no, I'm not. But you can apply a lot of these same concepts to that one. I probably won't do one. I try and do one miniature out of a kind of a kit or a box at a time. In there. Okay. So I'm trying to get the other chat in here too, so that I can be on all three as I need to. Question: how big of a part? Oh, I already answered the how big of a party are you running for Strahd? Okay, so bone white, another layer paint, a Vallejo layer paint. Now I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna be careful not to get the little gem that is in the center of this thing. This is gonna be some serious detail work. A little tip for those that are doing painting for the first time or whatever the case may be. When doing detail work, I like to rest my hand on my other hand or on the miniature. In the case this miniature is a little small, I'll rub off paint if I'm not careful. So I'm going to rest it on my hand. But this will give me added stability when I'm doing the detail work. Rather than kind of like floating your hand around here when you get to my age, things start to shake a little bit. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going in here and I'm bracing my hand onto my other hand or on the miniature just to give it a little added security and a little added support so that I can be a bit more precise with my strokes here. Like that. And I've filled in the little shirt area with my zero brush. Not sure how I'm doing this, folks, with my contacts because they're not feeling great in my head right now, but that's okay. We're making it work. Okay. Good. So you can see he's starting to come to life a bit more now. I'm going to go ahead and add a flesh wash to the flesh areas. The flesh wash tends to be a bit more diluted than the rest of the washes, I find. So we want to add a little bit of we just want to go a little heavier on the wash. So not so heavy that it runs everywhere, but you can see that I'm going fairly heavy on it. He is a vampire, so he is going to be quite... We want him to be fairly pale, but you can see I've added that wash, and you can see how the detail has come through. You can see the texture in the skin. Let that wash seep into the recesses in the eyes, and all of a sudden we have a very cool... It's hard to get close enough, but all of a sudden we have a very cool looking face. If you guys can hear it, but Bruno the tavern dog is quite loud today. Just doesn't have any respect for the creative process. That's really what it comes down to. You guys want to meet Bruno the tavern dog while we wait for things to dry? Let me know. Okay, so you can see how that wash has really done nice things to that face. That bone white is still a little wet. I don't want to put my sepia wash on that just yet. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come back in with my extra opaque red now, which is still wet in the palette. I was going to get more, but that's a great way. Yes, please show Doggo. Bruno, come. Bruno. Sorry if I just killed everybody's ears. Bruno, come here. See, this is what he's going to do. I'm calling him, and he's not coming. Oh, he's coming. Here he comes. Bruno. Come here, buddy. Come. Come meet everybody. Come say hi. Come say hi. Come here. Oh, he's heavy. Oh, he looks small, but he is solid. This, folks, is Bruno the Tavern Dog. He loves D&D. The reason I know is because he shows his affection in snorts and farts and snoring. And this is, yeah, he's a hefty sausage. He's basically a potato. He's like 22 pounds of pure French Bulldog wonderfulness. So that is Bruno. Okay, you go, buddy. Sorry for interrupting your nap or whatever you were doing. He's awesome. So anyways, that's Bruno. And you'll see him on the stream from time to time when he really doesn't want to do anything but be on top of me. Okay, so here we go. Zero brush, extra opaque red, still wet, viable on the palette, which is great. Now I'm basically going to trace, and because I brought him here, now he's lying here and he's just chomping on his paws. You'll probably hear him in the background. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to trace all of the higher folds in the texture on the miniature. So we're making sure not to get any of this heavy red into the recesses, but actually like that, trying to just hit the higher folds. This is going to bring all of that color back that we lost with the wash, but it's still going to maintain the shadows. So I'm just going to come across, hit all kind of the top areas. It's a little wet right now, so it's covering a bit more, but you can see how all of a sudden that red is really starting to come through a lot more than it was. Okay. He's just going at it. He sounds like a Strahd zombie. Yes, he actually does. He sounds like a zombie straight out of Barovia that is just chomping on some poor Barovian. It's not nice at all, frankly. It's not a nice sound, but he doesn't care. Bruno just does his thing. He doesn't give a what. All right. Like I said, I'm just going through highlighting all of the highest kind of folds and areas on this miniature, leaving that dark red in the recesses. He is so loud. Can you guys hear that? Oh man. Right? Everyone's a Bruno fan. As soon as they see him, the show becomes about Bruno. And I don't blame you guys. He's awesome. I wish he could co-host with me. That'd be great. I should have like a Bruno co-host, and just have like word bubbles somehow appear above his head. That would be great. Gotta figure out how to do that. Okay, I'm gonna get the collar here that comes down on that side and on this side. It's kind of red collar. There we go. I think that part's actually still supposed to be blue, but we'll sort that out after. But that's pretty much as far as I want to go on that red. I'm breaking. Basically, I brought down the tone, the overall tone, made it dark. Now I've brought back the mid-tones using that red in there. It is a dark. You can just drop your minis. That's better. But luckily, WizKids minis are very tough when it comes to dropping them. See, his hair now is this black blue, which is what I wanted. That actually worked quite nicely. Gonna go back in with some heavy blue, which is still wet in the palette. Just got a little bit of a latex skin on top of it, which is fine. And basically with this blue, I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I did with the coat. I'm gonna do on the cloak. Basically what that is I'm gonna take this heavy blue and I'm gonna paint it onto all the higher areas, leaving that darker color in the recesses. This is gonna lighten up the whole thing, but still keep it fairly dark because of those awesome shadows that we added using the wash. These sculpts are so good. And you'll recognize, folks, that from all the VODs, for those of you that don't necessarily know what VOD means, just the idea of the episodes that we've already filmed and recorded that are available on YouTube. You'll notice from all of those that I'm a purist when it comes to the color selections for these. I like to do them exactly how, or as close as they can, or as they appear in the monster manual, because I like my players to feel like they're fighting those actual monsters right out of the monster manual. I think they get a kick out of that, and I get a kick out of that as a DM. So, but you are the boss, folks, of your vampire. You are the boss of your miniatures, and however you want to paint them to fit your theme, your game, whatever the case may be. You want a purple kraken? You go for it. You need to be happy and satisfied with whatever color you decide to paint stuff. Okay, I think I went too far now with that. Maybe not. Maybe that's okay. So you can see now on the back how I've brought that blue back onto some of the heavy areas. Again, it's Strahd, so I want them to be fairly dark, fairly brooding, but you don't want to be so dark that you're not seeing the detail anymore. I'm going to bring probably one or two more highlights onto this cloak. This is the area. I love these cloaks because they're large, sweeping areas where you can do some really fun blending that isn't all that complex. Now I'm going to paint down to here, and on top here, and across the ridge, like that. There. Looks really cool. And for the most part, I'm always focusing the highlights closer to the area, imagining that there's light coming from above and hitting him from above, and how that would affect and play off of certain areas and certain surfaces. That's kind of the approach that I take to this stuff. I'm also going to hit the blue on the front of his sash here. I'm not hitting the whole thing. I'm just using the edge of the brush to basically catch the detail that is protruding here. There we go, like that. There. He's starting to come together. Good old Strahd. A petition to give Bruno a stream. Please, actually, that would be wonderful. Bruno needs his own stream. What are we gonna call it, folks? And what would it involve? If Bruno had his own very own stream, what would it be? This is our chance to spitball and negotiate Bruno's future as a streamer. Of course, I get a cut, but like I'll be his manager, kind of thing. I forgot to do something, folks. So we're just going to go back to our zero brush, which still has a lot of blue in it. And for those of you new painters, what you want to do is when you're loading your brush with paint, this is called the ferrule, this area here, the metal part. Try and not get too much paint into this area. And when you do, clean your brushes very well and rinse them very well, because what happens is that gets clogged up, and then your brush, instead of flowing like this, it seizes up at the bottom of the ferrule, and then it kind of does this. You basically just want to load your brush halfway to 3/4 of the way, or 2/3, I should say, up the bristles as much as possible, because in that case you are kind of protecting your brushes long term, and getting the result that you want from them, and maintaining that really good kind of point on them. Okay, so I forgot to do the little shirt area because he's got two cuffs. He's got the cuff from his jacket and the cuff from his shirt. So I'm just painting on his shirt cuff that is kind of poking out from under his jacket cuff. Just doing basically a line of bone white around his hands there. And if you want to go more the route of the, if you don't want it to necessarily look like Strahd as much, or that color scheme, if you want to go more of the color scheme from the Monster Manual, then you can pretty much use these same colors. I think there's blues and reds and browns and so on. So you can use pretty much the same palette for that. Okay. Now I am going to go ahead. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the coat a bit more. Now I am going to use my Warlord purple. This is a bit of a pink kind of purple color. I am going to add that to my palette here. Just a little bit of a drop, because I don't need too much. And I'm going to use my zero brush, and I'm going to mix that in a little bit with some of my heavy red. Now mixing that together here, because I want a bit of a kind of brighter red color, but I don't want it to be orange. I want it to go more on the wine color side, because that is, I feel, kind of central to Strahd. So with that color, I'm basically just going to hit the tops of the detail. So this is the highest, most detail. This is kind of the last highlight that I'm going to do on his jacket. But I'm just hitting kind of the elbow, and this is the extreme highlight. We're not going all over with it. We're just going on the highest areas that would be highlighted by the light that's coming down from the top here. You can see it, really see it on the shoulder there. Let's actually come out. I like that color a lot. How that's turning out. We'll do it on the top of the forearm, top of the cuff here, like that. Top of this cuff here, of course, the light's coming down, so we're going to see it more. On the collar, Bruno's just kind of hanging out. You hear him in the background, just pattering around here. What's up, buddy? You hungry? It's dinner time soon. But you gotta wait till after the stream. Okay. Now we're gonna... I'm also doing it kind of on the bottom half of these, because I feel like the light is catching as it kind of flows out. So I'm just a thin line there. I'm not putting any in here because I don't think it would catch there. That is what his coat is looking like. And I think I'm pretty happy with that as it stands. I don't think I want to add any more. Oh, I forgot the elbow back here. I do want to add a little bit to the elbow, because that would be kind of one of the brightest areas. Like that. Cool. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm going to get sepia wash. Now, sepia wash is my most favorite wash from the whole Game Color Vallejo line. And we just need a little bit of a drop. And I'm going to dilute this a fair bit, because I don't want it to go too dark, because I'm going to use it on the bone white for the shirt. And I don't want it to obscure or darken it too much, because we're not going to be able, because it's a small area, we really can't go in there and readjust. So I'm just going to do this and get that sepia wash into the recesses there. I actually went into the pink a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit of that tone, which that's not so good, but that's okay. There we go. That's more sepia. So we're going to do that. And I'm realizing now that it's actually covering a bit more than I wanted to at the top there, but that's okay, because that's the area. But you can see that if I put the sepia wash in here, it's going to kind of tone that shirt and give it some depth and shadow. And then I'll come in and I'll highlight his shirt, the frilly shirt around his neck a bit more, because it went a little darker than I intended. That's okay. Okay, now I'm going to do the same on the cloak that I did with the coat, using steel gray, and I'm going to mix a little steel gray into this heavy blue. Put a little heavy blue on the side, grab a little steel gray, which again is still wet in the palette. Touch of water just to help with the flow. And if you dilute your paints, it's gonna blend better. Now this might be too light. We will soon find out. Now, because it might be too light, I'm gonna focus on the area that is the highest area. Got a couple questions here. How long will a bottle of paint last after it's been opened before drying out. I've been told, and I've had my Vallejo paint bottles for a long time. Because they're dropper bottles, they last quite a bit longer than some, especially that are in pots. So because they're in dropper bottles, you can basically use as much as you want, lasts a long time, also lets less air in to the bottle to dry it out. Shelf life for a bottle of Vallejo paint is about 5 years, I've been told. And I think that's pretty accurate, given kind of my experience with it. Especially an unopened bottle lasts a really long time. Open bottle, same thing, just because, again, that dropper bottle technology, not really technology, but that dropper bottle is really great for keeping the paint kind of wet and viable longer in the bottle. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking that mix of steel gray and blue and just making a smaller kind of line on the peak of the high folds, the positive folds, I guess you would call them, on this miniature. So I'm just going to go like this on these positive areas. Add some highlights. Don't want too much down here because that's kind of the darker area of the miniature. Like that. There we go. And you can kind of see the effect that's having. How about Citadel texture paint and yeah, absolutely. So texture paints are great. Vallejo has a really great line of environment effects. We've used the snow quite a bit on this channel. I used the snow on the base of the Kraken model for actually the tip of waves. So not for snow necessarily, but for the kind of the foamy white end of a wave for the Kraken. So I've used it for that. I've also used it as snow for the Frost Giant, which worked really, really nicely. So yeah, the environment effect paints from Vallejo are really awesome. And just across any paint line, it's always nice to have those environment effects. It kind of adds a third dimension, I guess it were, to some of those areas. All right, I'm going to go back in now that that wash is dry. I'm going to go back in with some bone white here on the shirt and just re-highlight. I'm doing small little lines on those ruffles to maintain that kind of ruffle effect on this shirt, because it was kind of there we go. I think I need a little bit up that side here just to bring that back, but there we go. Okay. It's going all right, folks. It's going all right. I think, man, we're making good time here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start some of these metallics on here. I'm going to take silver. It's the only kind of silver paint, colored paint that I have. Cookie Monster, TT, says, is asking, how long have you been painting? How did you get into this? You're really good, by the way. Well, thank you very much. How did I get into this? I painted my first miniature when I was probably 11, 12, 13. And I remember the miniature, and I have a really great story that I'll tell in a second about that. But I think I've told it on the stream before, but a lot of you folks are new. Okay, so before I do that, I'm just going to take some silver here, folks, and I'm painting it onto the end of the scabbard here because there's a bit of a metal area on the end as well. I'm painting it just below the crossguard on the miniature as well, because the crossguard is kind of a gold color. I want to make it so that it stands out a bit more. So that's the crossguard, and the end of the scabbard is what I'm doing silver. Actually, let's find out what color his sword is, because I think there's a photo of Strahd, a photo. If there was a photo of Strahd, that'd be a little scary. There's no photo of Strahd, but there may be some reference of sword. I think there is. And it might be silver. Although the gold would look nice too. But we are adding gold highlights to, yeah. So the cross guard on a sword is that silver color. You can see it in the reference on the screen too. So I'm actually going to do that silver as well. So I'm also adding silver to the cross guard here, because we're using gold to actually line his outfit a little bit. So this is too wet. There's too much water in my brush, and it's starting to. So what I'm doing, folks, is I'm taking a brush that I haven't used yet, dry brush, and I'm just basically poking it into that recess when it ran down because it's too wet, and it sopped up that paint real quick. So now I'm just gonna make sure my brush is really nice and dry, and then I'm gonna go back into the silver here and grab some more, go back in, and there we go, it's better. So yeah, so I started painting miniatures. My first miniature was when I was like 11 or 12. It was a D&D mini. It was for my character at the time, and it was a cleric at that time. And then I didn't paint minis for a while. I painted like an orc and a couple other things back then, but back then it was a lot more theater of the mind for us back in the day for D&D, so there wasn't a lot of miniatures used. But then I really got into the Lord of the Rings minis by Games Workshop and got really super into that when that came out. And those movies, I loved the movies so much. Didn't even really play the game too much, but just got really into the miniatures and entered a contest. Came like second in North America or something like that, and then I was hooked to painting, and then I started wargaming. I played that for a while, painted a lot of armies for my wargaming kind of life, and then when I got back into D&D, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I found out that they had minis. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the time. So, but back then it was an old pewter mini. They used to be and I've just lost the name. Oh my goodness, my buddy's gonna kill me. Now they're Iron Wind, but they were Partha minis, which are like the original D&D minis made from pewter and lead, I guess, back in the day, which not so good anymore. Okay, folks, you can see what I did with the sword on the edge of the scabbard, the cross guard. I'm also going to make the buckle. He's got a big buckle on here. I'm going to make that silver as well. Why not? And then there's going to be gold kind of inlay on his clothing after that. But there. So he's got a silver buckle as well. Big old buckle. Now I'm going to go in with Warlord Purple real quick before I forget. And it's that pink color, but and mostly just because I really want it to pop. He's got this red gem kind of on an amulet. So I'm just going to hit it with that Warlord Purple. And it's not quite red, but it's really going to pop. So, and that's pretty much all I need on it. If I were really kind of worried about it, I go in a bit more. But because he's a villain in my campaign, I want to spend a bit more time on him, which is why we're dedicating the entire session to him instead of trying to get through 2 miniatures in one session here. All right, so that is that so far. It's going pretty good. I think I'm going to do some skin stuff while that silver is drying. Painted the Balrog mini. So did I. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's standing next to a mirror. If you guys didn't notice, in that shot, he's standing next to a mirror, and there's no reflection. It's just the floating cup glass beside it. It's really cool. Anyway, so funny story. Origins 2 years ago, my first show, kind of a moment of doing this professionally, and I had just started. Actually, I think that was my first year. I can't remember. I think I was still working full time at that time. Anyways, went to Origins, hanging out with all these awesome people, and I was at a party, and it was a Ralph Partha party, and there was a pile, and this was just 2 years ago. There was a pile of minis on the table, and I just kind of reached in and I grabbed one out, and I grabbed out the exact same model miniature that I painted when I was 12 years old. It was the cleric, and he was holding kind of like a warhammer, I think, or a maul down with a helmet on, big shoulder pads. Anyways, I pulled him out of the pile. I was like, oh my gosh, and I had a moment, and it was emotional, and it was kind of like I came full circle, and all my destiny and all that wonderful stuff. Anyways, it was really, really, really exciting and real fun. But that's how I started painting. And frankly, folks, I watched a ton of tutorials to the point where it just kind of became second nature. Color choices, color decisions, all that kind of stuff just kind of became second nature. Okay, so what did I say? Face. I was going to do that. Skin. So back to cadmium skin. Now, I'm going to take cadmium skin, and then I'm going to add, actually I could have used the stuff that was still in my palette. Keep doing that. I'm going to get off-white. I'm going to mix it a little bit with it, because cadmium skin at this point, the face is so small that we don't have to worry too much about building up too many layers. You almost want to go from wash to highlights, because it'll just pop. Again, we're making this look good from kind of the 2 feet table view. So I'm mixing a little off-white with some cadmium skin. We're going to go in here, folks, and do some serious detail work. So I'm just going to catch the bridge of the nose, like that. Kind of the brow above each eye, like that. Cheekbones. Oh, too much. Look at that. Big old blob on his face. Again, going with a brush I haven't used. And I'm just gonna wash it all up. Look at that. Comes right out. Just gonna soak up all that paint that you just did. For some reason, again, lots of water, probably in the ferrule here, has seeped down and made it so that not so good. Let's try that again. But again, if that happens, folks, that's all you do. Grab a brush you haven't used yet, dry brush, and it'll sop up all that paint. So again, I'm gonna get the chin, bottom lip, cheekbones, there. And you can see how that face is really starting to come through. There's only so close I can get to the camera, but I'm also gonna get the tip of the ear here. And again, he's a vampire, so he's looking a little pale, which is okay. That's what we want. So I get really quiet when I do this kind of detail work here. There we go. Now, he's got teeth in there, vampire teeth. We're going to try and catch those with some off-white, some pure off-white. So hopefully we can do that, but we'll see. I'm also going to take the edge of my brush and just run it along his knuckles for a highlight there on his hands. See that? I'm going to do that as well on this side. I'm just using the edge of the brush gently across the knuckle area so that I don't get it all into the recesses. So that's good. I'm going to try and get a little bit of white now. This is where it gets real fun, where my brush needs to be really, really dry. Get off-white right on the tip, and I'm going to try and get these teeth with my contacts. Here we go. Oh, too much. See that? It just went right into the mouth because it was too wet. For some reason, this brush is really wet right now, so I'm just going to let that go for a second. Let it sit. Let all the water kind of seep out there, because we do not want all that there. We'll do that after, because we're also going to get his eyes, believe it or not. So, okay. I'm actually going to add one more highlight level to his cape. It's going to be almost completely steel gray with just a touch of heavy blue. We're just going to catch the edge here. Like I said, this is more of an extreme highlight. I'm going to And I'm just going to do a thin, just on the, there's only a couple areas I want to do this. Add a little bit of water to that so that it flows. There we go. I'm just doing it on the edge here, just on the very edges where it would be the lightest. You can see if I don't like something, I often use my hand or my finger to kind of wipe it. I've added a little bit more water here so that it blends a bit better. It's going on a bit heavy, but diluting your paint will help it to blend better. Multiple thin coats is always better if you're trying to get kind of a subtle kind of blend in something. On the outside here, and then of course on the edge of the cloak, and down here as well. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's probably enough on the cloak there. I don't want to go too much lighter, but you can see how we've kind of built up that. I'm also going to get a little bit of off-white here. Put just a touch of it on the edge of his shirt. Just catching the frills here. I'm just catching the edges just to show the frilly nature of this shirt here so that it really sticks out. Also going to catch kind of the top of the shirt here, just in a small little line in one area. That'll pop. The silver has dried now, so I can go back in. I'm going to try once again with these teeth here. Hopefully the brush isn't too wet. There, 1, 2. Whew. So I've got vampire teeth in there. I don't know if you can see that. And then off-white. So when it comes to eyes, people are always daunted by eyes. Some people just don't say they don't even want to do it, which is cool too. Totally up to you. I like to create my eyes. The way I do it is I come in on the edge of the mini, like so. And then I just paint a little bit of a line in that side. I'm also going to paint a line on this side. Just like that. So his eyes are now white. And then I'm going to come in and just do a little bit of a dot of, let's see what I want to use for this. I don't want to use red because that's a little too on the nose. I think I'm just going to use a little bit of heavy sienna for his eyes because I think the red would just look a little garish. So come in here and just do a little dot. I might have to do this off camera, we'll see. Whoa, just filled the whole eye. This brush is giving me some issues here, folks. Just because there. I may have to just do this off camera because I can't really see what's going on here. Just doing my best to kind of get in here with the tip of the brush. There. I don't know if you guys can see his eyes. It's really close, and I can't get much closer with the blurriness, but there we go. If you folks can see it from that level. First time viewer, Captain Mike, welcome. Do you opt to use individual colors, or do you mix your colors for custom blends? I haven't tried mixing my paint yet. Citadels, you're talking about Citadel paint. I mix a lot in this show just because I want to show how the colors kind of interplay. A lot of these paint lines have all the colors you could imagine, so you don't necessarily have to mix. I like to build up colors. I never used to, actually. But lately, I'm actually mixing a lot more. So you'll see we've mixed quite a few colors here because, again, I'm trying to kind of get a good effect with less paint and showing people how you don't need, you know, a whole set of paint in order to get a decent kind of final effect or final result. So we're trying our best to kind of, at this point, use as little paint as possible, which means just more mixing. Yeah. So his eyes would be a little bit more striking with some black, but anyways, that works for now. Okay. That is it for his cloak is done. His hair is decent enough. I'm happy with the way his hair turned out. We're going to use a little bit of black wash. Still, of course, wet in the palette. And we're going to go over the silver area just to add some shadow to that. I'm going to add a little water to it because it's going on a little bit thick. The black wash is great because, again, it'll add delineation to certain areas. And it'll tarnish that sword a little bit just to give it a bit of a patina, make it look like it's used and not brand new, because it wouldn't be. And there we go. Okay. I am going to actually go dip back into this Warlord Purple, add a touch of heavy red to it, and I'm just going to do, I said I wasn't going to do anything else on this coat, but I'm finding this sleeve to be a little too kind of flat, so I'm just going to add a little touch of Warlord Purple in a couple areas just to kind of bring out the color more and make it a bit more interesting. Shoulder, kind of bicep area, top of the coat there, like that, and then maybe just a couple of these folds. Just add a couple little lines. Hopefully it doesn't look too pink in the end. But I just want to kind of blend some of this color in just so that it looks kind of that wine color. Not so much red, but more of a wine. Like that. I think it'll be okay once that dries. I think it's going to blend nicely. Okay. All right. Next step, we're going to take a little bit of this leather brown, and again, this is another layer paint from Vallejo. Yeah, I would say eyes do make a significant difference, because even with miniatures, with people and with miniatures, the first thing people look at is the eyes. And so it just really allows people to kind of like connect with the miniature, if that makes sense. Just makes them feel more alive. The water pot is something I've had for many years. This is just a standard water pot. It's kind of has like a brush holder thing here. Obviously, it looks old. I've had it for many years, but I did buy it years ago at a craft store or something. Tried and true. Old faithful. Okay. And you can see that just drop it on its head, no problem. You can see that pink has actually blended really nicely with the red, and it's made it kind of more of a wine color rather than kind of that stark red, which is kind of what I was looking for. So that actually worked out fairly nicely. We're going to go, like I said, take some of that leather brown. I'm going to mix a little bit of heavy brown, which is still wet in the palette, believe it or not. And we're going to go ahead here and we're going to highlight the boots. Now, for boots, I'm going to catch the edge of the fold over. I'm going to do a line kind of down the middle where the light would catch, and a line down the toe, in the back here, a line down the side. Basically, I wanted the boots to stay dark, but I want the light, it to feel like it's catching the light in certain facets. So we're going to do a line down there, line across kind of the bridge of the boot, on the toe, and then up here as well. Like that. Then I also want to catch the top of the scabbard with this leather brown and heavy sienna. You can see how that really adds to that scabbard. And again, folks, I'm taking a bit more time on this because I want it to feel... this miniature is the showcase of our new Curse of Strahd campaign starting January 6th. So we just want to make sure that it... You know, he's going to be seen a number of times, hopefully, throughout the campaign. And so we want to spend a bit more time as kind of an ongoing, reoccurring character. I've added 2 lines, top and bottom, on that belt. He's getting there. He's getting there. Belt's done, boots are done, scabbard's done. He's pretty much almost ready to go, folks. The last thing I'm going to do is add some gold filigree. And by filigree, I mean lines, because of that size. With glorious gold, it is a Vallejo metallic color. Love everybody watching tonight. Thank you, guys. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying it. Again, if you like what you're watching, make sure that you follow the D&D Twitch channel, as well as twitch.tv/RealmSmith. That is our Twitch as well, where we air a lot of this content. And then, of course, youtube.com/RealmSmith and youtube.com/D&D for all of the kind of VOD after the fact. We have 25 other episodes. So if you enjoy your watching, please follow us on all the socials. I think all the links come up here in a bit, so you can check that out. And follow at will, and like us, and subscribe, and all that wonderful stuff to stay up to speed with what we're doing. All right, what did I say we were going to do? Gold. Okay, so I'm going to take this glorious gold, which, again, a little wet near the end here. But basically what I'm going to do is there's filigree along the bottom here. There's like a border. So I'm just going to paint this gold along the border of his coat. It gets lost here and there. You can see that bead of water coming off. But I'm basically going to paint that border all along the bottom of his cloak here. A little messy in the back, but that's okay. But this is really going to make those colors pop, especially that kind of wine color. You can see how it's really ending that off quite nicely at the bottom of his coat. And typically I would wash this afterwards, but we want this to be fairly light, and it's such a small area that I'm actually probably not going to do that. He has a little kind of button on his coat there. I'm going to do that gold. I'm also, I think, going to add a little line on his cuff here, which is really brave, but and worked out. Sometimes doesn't. Especially now, we've taken so much time to paint this miniature carefully. No apologies for questions, Captain Mike. That's what I'm here for. For all my next 2 minis are going to be a young green dragon and a carrion crawler. If you have done those minis, I'd love to get a link. Yes, Captain Mike, we did do the green dragon. That was maybe our 4th tutorial. You can again see it at youtube.com/RealmSmith. And there it is. Man, Declasser is on it with the links. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. And then the carrion crawler we did at Origins last year. That's probably on our Facebook page. Check that out. Maybe we'll run that, actually. Oh, that wouldn't be a bad idea, to run the carrion crawler as a separate tutorial. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll run that this next week, possibly, while I'm on Christmas vacation. Okay, so I'm also going to do a gold line across this. Again, being very careful not to get it on other areas, but it's difficult to do sometimes. Don't worry about if you get it over a little bit, but basically, there we go. So we got gold along the 2 cuffs, along the bottom. And then I'm going to add a little bit on the outer area of his collar here. And this is just going to really make Strahd look kind of regal, as Strahd does. I'm saying Strahd, this is actually the vampire miniature from WizKids. I'm using him as my Strahd for my campaign, but this is the vampires miniature. It comes with 2 miniatures in a pack. 2 vampires. One is kind of rushing forward, the sword drawn, and one is like this, standing kind of regally is that a word? With his sword in the scabbard still about ready to pounce. So I feel like this little area on the side would be like a buckle or something. I've made that gold. I do also want to do one gold line up kind of the center, as if that's where his jacket kind of comes together, which I think looks decent. Let me see if there's anywhere else I want to put some gold here. That might be it. Okay. I think that's all of his body. There we go. One last look at his body, kind of. And then we're going to go here, and we're just going to put... I'm going to do the same that I did on the other miniatures, just because they're all from the same set. I'm going to use them all in the same campaign. We're going to use Steel Gray, which is, again, still wet in my palette. I should need a little bit more, because I didn't put much in my palette in the first place. Just put a drop here, like that. Question, any chance you've figured out if you'll be at PAX East? I don't know yet. If we do go, it's going to be small. It's kind of small scale. We probably aren't going to do the same thing we did at PAX West. But I will absolutely let you know as soon as we hear back from our partners to see if we're going to do that. Okay, so to paint the base here, I'm easing into it. I want to make sure I don't get it on these boots, on these great boots that we just worked so hard to finish up here. But I always do the bases last, because that's usually where I hold the miniature. And if I were to do them earlier, I would have wiped off all of the paint on the edges here on that mini. So I'm going to gingerly and carefully hold the miniature by the body, making sure, or being careful not to wipe off that paint. Painting the stone. That. Okay. All right. Also, folks, we post final images of all of the miniatures that we've painted on our Instagram as well. We're on Instagram at RealmSmith TV. RealmSmith TV on Instagram, and that's also all the socials. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we're all at RealmSmith TV on the socials. So you can check us out there or search for us. I think Declasser put up a link to all of our socials as well. So cool stuff. All right. This is great. Working out all right. Okay, so that base is done. I'm going to let that sit, and then we're going to do a wash on that just for a second. But you can see how light that color is, and then how dark it gets when you add the wash, and how it adds that contrast and that depth really, really nicely. Okay, so just going through the miniature. Oh, you know what? While I'm here, I might as well paint the cane sword from Rictavio, who is on the ground here. So I'm just going to paint. This is last week's miniature, for those of you that just tuned in. I'm just going to paint this cane sword that he has on the ground here. It's kind of the end of his cane. When he drew his sword out, he's probably facing Strahd as we speak here. But I just wanted to paint that on the ground there. But that is the Vampire Hunter Rictavio. A little bit of a spoiler. His name's not really Rictavio, but you can find that out in Curse of Strahd. That was last week's. We painted that, and we painted Esmeralda in the same week. We taught some batch painting in 2 hours. We painted both of those. You guys can check that out on our Twitch, and we'll be uploading to our YouTube soon. Hi, Melinda. Melinda says she can't stay tonight. That's cool. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Amy. all you guys. Thanks for stopping in to say hi and watch. And okay, this is still drying. We're gonna take out our trusty. I'm gonna see this thing through to the end, folks. We're almost done. 15 minutes left here. Did a lot of talking today, I think, which is good. And then once that's done, we're gonna add that wash again to that base, and it's gonna end up, I think, just the way I'd like it to. I think it turned out really well. We'll give you one last look. What's your favorite mini you've done on the stream so far? Ooh, I think Frost Giant would be my favorite. It's a 3-parter. It's big, but it's a lot of fun. And the Kraken was 2 parts. That one was really fun too because of all the water effects. Okay, so that is done. We're going to get some black wash here, add a little bit of water to it, and we are going to paint it on this base. It's had some time to dry, so it's thickened up a little bit. So I'm just going to dilute with some water and just get that wash onto that base. Get that wash onto that base. Folks, it's been a long weekend. Tell you what. Weekend before Christmas. It's nuts. Okay, there we go. Let's have one last look at my Vampire Strahd. Again, you can pick up these miniatures at your local game store. This is this miniature and these two. So all 3 of these will be featured coming January 6th. Into the Mist is our new D&D Curse of Strahd campaign that will be airing natively on the D&D Twitch. You guys can check that out. As well as on our Twitch channel, probably on YouTube and Facebook too. It'll be on all the channels. We're really excited about it. Awesome cast, and it'll be an interactive stream. All I can tell you basically is that you are able to donate to give players items in Barovia through the Mist. So our players at the table, you can donate in the break. Portion of that goes to Extra Life, and basically potions and other awesome items will be transported to the players in Barovia, and the room that we're in, the studio, will react to your purchases, to your donations. So it's interactive and crazy and fun. We're trying it for the first time, and we're super excited about that. So you guys can check that out January 6th on the D&D Twitch and our Twitch. That is Into the Mist. If you'd like to check out our adventure boxes, which are right there, RealmSmith.tv, we have a monthly adventure box, fully immersive with miniatures and paint and modules and maps and player items and scented candles and sound sets and all that kind of stuff. We send it to you every single month, so you can check that out at RealmSmith.tv. And if you use the promo code IWantAdventure, you will get $20 off your first box. You can cancel it anytime. You can try that for yourselves. Next week, we're doing a pre-recorded session, probably from PAX or maybe the Carrion Crawler. I'll take a look through our archives and find out what it is. But next Sunday, we will be doing a pre-recorded version because it's the Christmas holidays. Happy holidays to all of you. Merry Christmas. Hopefully your stockings and your trees are full of miniatures and D&D wonderfulness. You guys have a wonderful time. You be safe. You can follow us again on our channels at RealmSmith, or on all the socials at RealmSmith TV. Thanks to our partners as usual, D&D, Vallejo, Sirenscape, and WizKids, for another awesome tutorial session. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out our VODs on YouTube, and you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. And thanks, D&D, for hosting us natively. It's so great to be on the actual channel and not just hosted today. It's been awesome. Thank you, everyone. Glad to meet you all. We will see you in a couple weeks live, and then Into the Mist on January 6th. Take care.